Life process in living organism part 2. Now first of all, what is life process? These are the processes which are required for the living organism so that we can survive. And if these processes won't be there, then the survival of humans cannot be possible. So these life processes play a very important role in our life. So there are different life processes and different organ systems are involved in these processes. For example, we have transportation, respiration, excretion, reproduction, metabolism, nutrition, etc. Now, we have already learned about respiration in the last chapter, and we have also learned about the cell division. Now this we have learned in life process, which is part 1. Now in part 2 we will be learning about reproduction, and we will be learning about human reproduction as well as reproduction in plants or asexual reproduction. So what is reproduction? So if I have to define reproduction, reproduction is the formation of new organism of same species by earlier existing organism. So new organisms are formed, but the earlier existing organism is necessary so that the new organism can be formed. Now, there are two types of reproduction. One is asexual reproduction and second is sexual reproduction. Now, in asexual reproduction, there is no gamete formation. So, in asexual reproduction, the reproduction takes place through mitosis. Now, you have learned about mitosis and meiosis in life process part 1. So, in asexual reproduction, mitosis takes place, only cell will be there, it will divide and daughter cells will be formed. So, this is called as asexual reproduction. Next type is sexual reproduction, and it involves the formation of gametes and also union of gametes. So, the male and female gametes can be combined, and you can say that parent gametes are combined together and the new organism is formed. So this is called as sexual reproduction. And asexual reproduction, the reproduction takes place through one parent only, that is uniparent reproduction. So this is the main difference between asexual and sexual reproduction. So, in asexual reproduction, this is the parent cell. The parent cell will divide. Now, division can take place through many processes. There are different type of fission which takes place. So, the cell will be there and this cell will divide. And whatever the matter is there inside, the nucleus or the cell organelle, all of this is divided and we get two daughter cells. Even you can see the flagella which is there, that is also divided and it is given into two daughter cells. So two daughter cells are formed. When this daughter cells will divide, that means from this we will get two daughter cells again, and from this cell we will get two daughter cells again. So this type of division that takes place without involving any gamete formation or without involving two parents, that type of reproduction we call it as asexual reproduction. Now this reproduction occurs in unicellular organism as well as multicellular organism. Let us first look at asexual reproduction in unicellular organisms. So the first type of asexual reproduction is fission. Now the fission takes place through many methods. The binary fission has three types. First is the simple binary fission. Now, fission means there is a division which takes place. So, in prokaryotes or in protists and in eukaryotes, cell organelles like the mitochondria or chloroplast perform asexual reproduction by binary fission. And what happens is, in this process, the parent cell, now here you can see the parent cell, it divides to form, now here you can see the two division is taking place. So the parent cell divides to form two daughter cells, and the daughter cells will be similar to the parent cell. So this parent amoeba will be similar to these daughter amoeba. So this type of division occurs by mitosis or by amitosis. And this division is called as simple binary division, or you can say simple binary fission, because there is nothing which is involving, only one cell is getting divided into two cells. Next is transverse binary fission and longitudinal binary fission. Now here if you will see, the axis of division is a transverse line, and here if you will see, the axis of division is a longitudinal line. So that is why the name transverse binary fission and longitudinal binary fission. Now here if you will see, in transverse binary fission in paramecium, so here the paramecium is there, the cell divides transversely and we get two daughter cells which are similar to the parent cell. Just the name is different, that is, it is happening in transverse manner. Next you will see that is longitudinal binary fission, which happens in euglena. So here if you will see, one cell, it expands itself, two flagellas are formed, and then slowly a longitudinal line is formed and the cell gets divided in a straight form and two cells are formed. These cells are again similar to the parent cell. So this type of division is called as longitudinal binary fission. Only the difference is between the axis of fission, or you can say the division. Second type of division is multiple fission. Now in this, from one parent cell, many daughter amoebas can be formed or many daughter nuclei are formed. So now what happens is, in the unfavorable conditions, when the conditions of the surroundings are not good, what amoeba does is it stops to form the pseudopodias and it will not eat anything. And what happens is, there is a cyst which is formed. You can see here the hard covering is formed. Now this hard covering is formed, which is called as the cyst. And inside the cyst, many small nuclei are formed. So whatever matter is there inside, so it starts to separate and divide itself inside the cyst only. Now this covering is very hard. And as the conditions become favorable, so what happens is, this cyst will break and all the nuclei come outside. And as the all nuclei come outside, all of them start to live independently. And these are called as the daughter nuclei or the daughter amoeba. So one parent cell gives rise to many parent cells. So as many cells are formed, this type of division is called as multiple fission. From one cell, many cells can be formed. Second type of division is budding. Now these all are the asexual type of division, and this happens in yeast cell. Now what happens, we all know that where yeast is formed, yeast is used to bake the bread. So yeast can be used in the food as well. So what happens is, this yeast, when it has to divide itself, it starts to form a bud. You can see here a small extension is formed. This is called as the developing bud. So this bud starts to form and the nucleus also starts to separate from the parent cell. Slowly you will see that the new bud has formed, even the nucleus which is there, that has separated, and whatever organic matter is there inside, that also has been separated, and this bud is just attached to the parent. Now sometimes it might happen that this bud which is there, it can break, and the daughters which is formed, it can live independently, or from this bud only it starts to produce more bud and form the chains of bud. So this type of reproduction which happens because of the formation of bud, that is called as budding. Next is asexual reproduction in multicellular organisms. Now earlier we studied about unicellular organisms. Now asexual reproduction in multicellular organisms. The first one is fragmentation. So now what happens is, in this, the parent which is there, for example, the Spirogyra is the parent form. So that parent is filaments, it grow very fast and it breaks into small fragments. As small fragments are formed, you can see here small fragments are formed. So that type of reproduction is called as the fragmentation type of reproduction. Now this, for example, this is the parent cell, it will divide and two fragments are formed. So this cell will start to live independently, this cell will start to live independently, and after growing it will again divide, and then again the process will continue. Here you can see that the nucleus is there, septa is there, spiral chloroplast is there, everything gets separated, and whatever the fragmentation process which takes place, both the daughters, or you can say both the cells which are new type of Spirogyra which is formed, it will have the characters of the parent which is there. So this type, as it takes place due to formation of fragments, it is called as fragmentation. Second type of asexual reproduction in multicellular organism is regeneration. Now you must have seen that whenever the tail of the lizard is cut, so the tail again starts to grow in the lizard. But this is the limited regeneration that takes place. But here in the planaria, so here what happens is, for example, this is the parent cell. The parent cell divides here, and for example, this is the head and this is the lower part. So from the head the entire organism can be formed, and from the lower part, that is the tail part, the entire organism can be formed. So this type of reproduction is called as regeneration. Even if you divide the animal into half, so from the part which is left, from there the new organisms can be formed. Now from this part the organism won't be formed. From the head and from the tail part the new organisms can be formed. Third type of reproduction is budding. Now, this is not similar to the budding that we saw in asexual reproduction. Now, what happens in this is that an outgrowth is formed by repeated division of the regenerative cells which are there in the body of the animal, for example, in Hydra. And this outgrowth is called as the bud. Here you can see a small outgrowth is formed. Now, this outgrowth which is formed, we call it as bud. Now, this bud grows up to a particular level and finally forms a small hydra. So, from this bud, we can see here a small hydra is formed, which is now called as bud only. This is not entire hydra. Now, slowly what happens is the dermal layer and the digestive cavity which is there in the hydra, it continuously divides, and from the parent it is then given to the daughter or hydra which is formed here. And slowly after a long time, the budding hydra, it will separate from the parent hydra and it starts to live independently. As it gets all the matter from the parent hydra, all the digestive cavities, whenever it gets the division takes place and it gets all the thing from the parent, when it is mature it will break and then it will form into a new hydra. Now here you can see these are the tentacles. Now these tentacles are also present in the cell, the new hydra which is formed. So this type of reproduction which takes place through the formation of bud, this is called as budding, and the example is hydra. Fourth type of reproduction in multicellular organism, that is asexual reproduction. It happens through vegetative propagation. Now what is vegetative propagation? It is the part, for example, the vegetative part like the root, the stem, the leaf, bud. So from all of this, when the reproduction takes place, the new plant is formed. So that is called as the vegetative propagation, because the new organism or the new plant is formed from that vegetative part. So here you can see that in potatoes we have eyes, then we have in Bryophylla, if you see, there are small buds which are formed on the margin. So these type of buds or the leaf, even if you see sugarcane, so there are nodes which are there from which the new bud starts to arise. So all of this type of vegetative parts, it grows and a new plant is formed from that. So this type of reproduction which takes place, this is called as vegetative propagation. Now, fifth type of reproduction in multicellular organism through asexual method is spore formation. Now, in this, spores are formed and these spores give rise to the new fungal plant. Now, usually you must have seen, if you will keep a bread or a bhakri or roti for a very long time outside. So, if it is kept in dark also for many days, you can find there is greenish or blackish layer of fungus which is formed. So inside, if you will see this in the microscope, you will find that this is the fungus which is grown, and here you may see there are sporangium, sporangiophores, spores are present inside the sporangium. Now these spores, whenever they break, so the spores are released from the sporangium, the spores are released, and these spores, wherever they will fall from there, a new fungal colony starts to grow. So this is how the bread which is there, the blackish part, if you will keep for some time, it will keep on growing, it will not stop. So this is because of the spore formation which takes place. This type of reproduction which happens through spore formation is called as the reproduction through spore formation.